Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mindfulness for Creatives Part 2, The Body. My name is Susana Pareto-Swap, and I'm the founder and executive director of Vanguard Culture, a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to advancing San Diego's creative industry workforce. This workshop is part this is part of our Forum Professional Development Series, which presents a variety of programs aimed to give creatives the tools and the resources to make a living doing what they love. For more information, please visit vanguardculture.org. If you missed part 1 of this 3-part series, The Breath, it can now be found on our Vanguard Culture YouTube page. Thank you for supporting our work. We're so honored to be partnering with mindfulness teacher Wilda Wong on this 3-part series, specifically geared toward creative professionals. Now, we all know the last few years of COVID have been especially challenging for the creative community, and humanity turned to the arts for comfort and solace. And of course, artists, as they always have through the history of time, they stepped up to the challenge. But today, this moment is for you to take care of you. With that, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce Wilda Wong. Wilda is professionally trained and qualified to teach mindfulness-based stress reduction, or MBSR, through the UCSD Center for Mindfulness-Based Professional Training Institute. She first encountered MBSR in 2015 and credits mindfulness for helping her cultivate a more holistic understanding of her mind, body, and emotions, as well as deeper empathy, compassion, and gratitude for herself and others. She can be found on Instagram at momenttomoment.co. Thank you so much for being here, Wilda. I will pass the torch to you, and thank you so much for leading us in our practice today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Susana, for having me. It is a pleasure to be back and see some familiar faces. And welcome, Thais, again. And Kara, am I saying your name correctly? Great. Welcome, Kara. So today the theme is the body. Although as I like to think of the body and the breath being very interconnected. So it's really a theme for us to work off of, but it cannot be isolated, right? So as we arrive into this moment, I would love to invite you to gently close the eyes if you feel comfortable doing that, or simply lowering the gaze, and just allowing our bodies to settle into this brand new moment. And perhaps finding a couple of deep breaths here, just breathing at your own pace. However you're breathing, there's no need to change. Just noticing the breath, noticing the air entering the nostrils or your mouth, noticing the air travel down to your lungs, and also noticing the out breath, your exhale through your nostrils or your mouth. And just taking this moment here to notice the surface that you're sitting on, supporting your weight, noticing the points of contact your body is making with the surface supporting you. And just noticing this transition from the previous moments into this brand new moment. Perhaps noticing any thoughts or emotions that are rising for you in this particular moment. And just acknowledging that they're there. You don't have to do anything about them. And perhaps also noticing any tension or discomfort in your body in this moment, as well as any areas of comfort and ease in your body in this moment. Just simply noticing. And perhaps allowing yourself to feel gratitude for taking some time out of your day to be here, to practice together in this community. I'm grateful for all of you for being here. And when you feel ready, perhaps wiggling your fingers and your toes, just bring some gentle alertness to your hands and feet, and perhaps bring some gentle movement to your neck if your neck calls for it. Just gently rotating the neck. And if you're noticing any discomfort or tension in your body, perhaps seeing if there's a way to self-massage, just offering yourself a little bit of physical comfort where your body calls for it in this moment. And when you're ready, fluttering the eyes open and returning your attention back to the screen. So since we're doing this on Zoom, it can feel a little bit, you know, my being here, my voice might feel a little bit disembodied. So I would love to invite us to take a moment to just really look around the screen, look around who is in the room right now. And just seeing the folks who are here. We are here. We have bodies. We are each in our own space, and we may not be sharing the same space together, but we are here together in this way. And to continue this theme of bringing any comfort to areas of our body feeling any tension, I invite you to, if you're able to stand, or if you like to stay seated, you're welcome to do the seated as well. But I would love to just get some blood flowing to our legs and our feet. And perhaps doing some gentle shoulder rolls from front to back, just going at your own pace. There's no right or wrong way to do this. And then just reversing the rolling of the shoulders. Perhaps bring the arms up towards the ceiling. And again, going at your own pace, following your breath. And even looking up at the sky if you like. And bring your arms gently back down towards the sides of your body. And you're certainly welcome to synchronize the movement of your arms with your breath. So perhaps on the in-breath, bring your arms up towards the sky. And then on the out-breath, bring the arms gently back down towards the sides. Just a couple more times at your own pace here. And you're certainly welcome to bring any other kind of movement or stretching that feels good to you. There's no need to follow my guidance. Just do what feels good for you in this moment. Perhaps a little bit of bouncing. maybe a fun balancing pose, just whatever your body is calling for. I'm loving the twisting that I see some of you doing. And you can even try tapping your body on your chest, down the sides, down your legs, doing some light tapping or massaging yourself. Maybe massaging your feet here or your calf muscle, your neck. Just noticing what your body is asking for in this moment. And perhaps bring some TLC there. Okay, so I am going to pause the recording. See if I can pause it. All right. Thank you for doing some freestyle movement with me. I think that song should be the anthem for MBSR, personally. I'm going to try to introduce it into my future classes. But I just love that song. It's very on message for, just being in your body. Don't stress, get out of your head. Get out of your head and into your body. Okay, so I like to introduce movement before we kind of get into any sort of creative activity, because I do think a lot of times when I feel stuck, sometimes moving things loose in the body can help with the creative flow. So we are going to segue into a seated meditation that is allowing us to sort of open our senses to receive different types of sensory experiences. So this meditation is called open awareness, or what we sometimes refer to as 5 objects of awareness. So if you are in a seated and supportive posture where you are, that's great. If you would like to find a different posture or a different area of the room to sit for about 10 to 15 minutes, this is not going to be too long, but it is a way for us to notice kind of different senses that are around us. And if you feel ready, I invite you to once again close the eyes or lower your gaze. And as we settle into our bodies, noticing what came up for you during the freestyle movement and any of the effects of that freestyle movement or dancing that we just practiced together. Perhaps noticing your heart racing a little bit, perhaps feeling a little bit warmer than a few moments ago. Just noticing any sensations that are arising. And perhaps noticing your breath here. As with the awareness of breath practice last week, my invitation is to notice your breath all the way from inhale through the nostrils or your mouth, noticing how the air travels through your body into your lungs, Noticing the rising and falling of the chest and your belly. And then noticing the out breath, breathing out through your nose or the mouth. And however you're experiencing your breath right now, there's no right or wrong. The invitation is just to simply notice. And now my invitation to you is to notice sensations of the body. For those of you who were here last week and practiced the body scan, perhaps performing just a brief body scan on yourself from your toes all the way up your body to the top of your head. Just scanning your body and noticing what's coming up for you in your body in this moment. Noticing if there are any parts of your body that perhaps feel a little bit stagnant or in discomfort or feeling great. Just noticing without judgment. And along with noticing any physical sensations, you can also perhaps notice the temperature in the room and how that feels on your skin, on your body. Perhaps noticing any dampness or dryness of the skin, noticing any parts of your body that might feel warmer or cooler than the rest of your body. Noticing the fabric of your clothing against your skin. Just noticing your entire body sitting here. And now I invite you to open up your awareness to any thoughts that are arising for you. And if you're not thinking of anything in this particular moment, then simply noticing that. And perhaps noticing if there are any particular patterns to your thoughts. In this moment, are you thinking about something that had happened in the past? Are you planning for the future? Perhaps thinking about the present moment. Just noticing what types of thoughts you're having, if you're having any. See if you can simply observe your thoughts as if you're watching a river and watching the water flow by in the river. Just observing your thoughts without engaging with them. And now maybe bringing your awareness to any emotions or feelings you're having in this moment. Just checking in with yourself. And again, no judgment here. No need to engage with those emotions. Simply, if you can observe those feelings and those emotions as they flow by. And now allowing your awareness to pick up any sounds around you. And if you're wearing earbuds, perhaps removing one side so you can notice any sounds in your space in this moment. Or perhaps noticing the quiet. I can hear birds where I am, just outside my room. Maybe you hear traffic, some cars. And see if you can receive any sounds here as just raw pieces of data, of information, without assigning a story to the sounds. So for example, I heard some sounds of kind of a whirring sound outside, but resisting the temptation to label the sound or labeling the source of the sound. Just see if you can notice what it sounds like without thinking about what might be causing the sounds. And now allowing yourself to be aware of any sensations or anything that is arising for you, including your breath, any physical sensations, any thoughts, emotions, and sound, any of these objects of awareness, just allowing yourself to just notice whatever is coming up for you in this moment in a completely open awareness or choiceless awareness, as it's sometimes called. And then gently returning your awareness to your breath. Just noticing the in-breath, noticing the out-breath. There's a handy mindfulness verse from Thich Nhat Hanh that says, breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. Just being aware of the breath. And then when you're ready, fluttering the eyes open and returning your gaze back to the screen. Okay. So for this next exercise, I invite you to take your writing instruments and your scratch paper or your notebook. And if you wish to move to a different part of the room, I am going to guide us in a seeing versus looking meditation, along with a drawing or a writing exercise that goes with it. So the invitation is to move to perhaps a window. If you can still hear my guidance, move to a window where you can look outside, or just simply pick a spot to look at in the room that you perhaps don't spend a lot of time looking at. So this practice is focusing on the sense of sight. And as we've practiced just before with sound, where we allow sound to come to us without reaching for it or analyzing the sources of the sound, we'll simply allow the sense of sight and allowing visual stimuli to come to our eyes without any effort or of trying to find anything in particular. So practicing resisting the urge to label anything, but simply allowing the eyes to receive what is there. So wherever you are, allowing your sight now to act like a wide angle lens. So allowing a broader field of view of all that is seen before you. And much like open awareness that we just practiced, this is just allowing yourself to see what arises in the field of awareness with the sense of sight. And becoming aware of any colors and shapes, any textures, any movement, And there's no rush here. There's no need to know what you're seeing. You're simply letting attention receive the seeing. So seeing what is before you instead of looking for what you wish to see or expect or want to see. And when you feel ready, allowing your attention to settle on one single object that is here in the landscape of seeing. So, not looking for this particular object, but rather allowing the object to reveal itself quite naturally to your eyes. And steadying your attention on the object. And allowing the sense of seeing to reveal itself as you attend to this one object. Noticing the color, the shape, the texture, and any movement of this one object. And now I invite you to take hold of your writing instrument and your scratch paper or notebook or whatever device or surface you're working on. And the invitation here is your choice, whether you wish to start kind of drawing what you're seeing or using words to describe what you see. And the invitation here is not to say, for example, I see a leaf, because that is labeling what you're seeing, but rather seeing if you can describe it in how you're receiving this visual stimuli. So, for example, you might say, you're noticing a waxy texture. You're noticing a dark green color. Let's see if you can resist labeling the object that you're seeing in front of you. And similar guidance with drawing. If you're drawing, and actually, if you've ever taken any still life drawing classes, you may have heard the instruction, draw what is there, not what you think is there. So rather than drawing what you think a leaf looks like, just simply tracing perhaps the outlines or the shape, perhaps shading in where there is shadow and darkness, depicting any contrast that you're seeing in front of you, but resisting the urge to draw what you think is there. So give us a few moments to do this, using either words or drawing or both, if you like. How is your breath in this moment? How is your body? How are your eyes receiving information in this moment? Feel free to take a pause and check in with yourself. And whatever you have on your page, you're certainly welcome to continue sketching or writing out some words that resonate for you in this moment. You're also welcome to perhaps take a pause and invite a little bit more curiosity and playfulness. So, for example, if you've been holding your paper, perhaps rotating it by 90 degrees and see what's on your page now. And then perhaps rotating the paper again. And just kind of examining what you have on your paper from different angles. And if you see something that speaks to you and you wish to shade it in some more or start adding shapes, you can certainly break away from seeing the object in front of you and just start adding whatever shapes you like to your paper. There are no rules. We're just learning to see in different ways. And if you're writing words on your paper, perhaps you see a way to expand those words into a verse, maybe start to flesh it out into some poetry or prose, whatever is calling for you in this moment. And noticing how your body is receiving whatever decision you've just made. And perhaps you might like to rotate the paper once more if you want to look at it from another different angle. And just add to it however you wish. And last week we practiced drawing our breath. So if you wish to return to that exercise, you can perhaps close the eyes and practice a breath meditation and just allowing your pen to draw the breath, however that makes sense to you. And again, there are no rules. I'd like to read you a quote from Jon Kabat-Zinn, the founder of Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction. He wrote a book called Wherever You Go, There You Are. When you're feeling pressure, when you're feeling under pressure and blocked or stymied in something you want or need to do, hard as it may seem, try not to push the river in that moment, but listen carefully to it instead. What does it tell you? What is it telling you to do? If nothing, then just breathe. Let things be as they are. Let go into patience. Continue listening. If the river tells you something, then do it, but do it mindfully. Then pause, wait patiently, and listen again. So in this practice, we're just allowing our curiosity to come in and see where it takes us. I like to remind us to remain playful and curious because I think there's a lot of importance. There's a lesson of trust in that and intuition in play. And if you ever feel an inner critic telling you that you're not creative, remember that creativity is a skill. We have to keep building that muscle. And I think with mindfulness, it helps us create that spaciousness where we can find the spaces of potential. So wherever you are on your paper, just kind of maybe take a pause and look at it. And if anyone would like to share, you're welcome to share any words that came to you in your mindful seeing and looking activity, or if you want to share a sketch that you just did, you're welcome to, but no pressure. Would anyone like to share?
Chip off the floorboard like a crying eye.
Mm.
Interior.
Mm.
I found
And
myself having a really hard time with not saying what it was,
it's challenging.
but it was a good challenge. It got me
Mm.
using way more descriptive words, which was actually
Mm.
very creative exercise.
Mm.
Yeah, I never write poetry, but I love poetry. And I
Mm.
just wrote a little poem on my object, but I'm not going to
Oh.
read it.
Hey, no pressure.
You got me started, Wilda. My next
Oh,
career.
how beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Anyone else find this practice a bit challenging, a little bit strange? Yeah, I think resisting the urge to label something is it can be hard to do because our minds, human brains are wired to make sense of the world however we can. And so it's sort of like a shortcut, right? In a way, it helps us make sense of the world. Like if we see a tree, oh, that's a tree, and there's probably going to be birds in that tree and there are leaves growing on that tree. And perhaps your curiosity might take you to wonder what kind of tree it is, what kind of bark that is, where it comes from. But a lot of the time, we may not do that. We might just see there are some trees there and it looks very pretty from a distance. But to really examine it and practice the seeing versus looking can allow us to really practice and learn to see things as they are rather than seeing what we think they are. And I think how that applies to everyday life, including being creative beings, is, the urge to label, allowing ourselves to stay curious and open-minded, Like what is actually in front of me rather than, oh yeah, that's just a leaf. That's just a tree. That's just a hummingbird. But really looking like, well, if we were an alien species coming from another planet landing on this earth, that's, I think, one pathway to practice this is pretend you are a member of an alien species landing from outer space, and you just don't have the language for anything that you're seeing. You don't know that that's a piece of the floorboard. You don't know that that's a tree. You don't know that thing is called a hummingbird. Like, how might you describe to your community back on your home planet what you just saw? Like, how would you describe your surroundings? So that's kind of a fun exercise, maybe the next time you go for a walk, like you're an alien species. You have no idea like what any of this is, cars, they don't mean anything to you. Roads, children, playgrounds. I mean, none of that is familiar. So kind of bring that sense of unfamiliar back into the brain, kind of like how we talked about last time, allowing ourselves to see things from the eyes of a child, learning how to walk again, allowing yourself to stumble a little bit, to be a little bit awkward. So bring that in a little bit more. Can be really opening and just free of restrictions, free of boundaries that we draw up for ourselves. And so, speaking of boundaries, I would love to close us out on something that I think is really relevant to creatives. And I will share screen for just the last few moments. I would love for us to perhaps write some affirmations for ourselves. And I wanted to share this for those of you who are familiar with Octavia Butler. She had incredible affirmations for herself. I don't know if you can see the page of her notebook here. I shall be a best-selling writer. And she goes on to list the publications and says, this is my life. I write best-selling novels. My novels go into the bestseller lists on or shortly after publication. See to it, so be it. So this is very strong affirmative language that she wrote for herself. And so for the next couple of moments, I would love for us to just write our version of what that affirmation is for ourselves. And this is tapping into our own playfulness, our own intuition about what we want to see for our own future. So feel free to have your pen and paper and just kind of work on what a simple affirmation might be for yourself. And taking a moment here to check in with your body as you're writing these affirmations. How are you feeling in your body right now?
I got a little excited, like,
How are you experiencing that excitement in your body?
heat,
Mm,
heat, I got a little hot.
mm. Would anyone like to share an affirmation that you wrote for yourself? And again, no pressure. Here's one I wrote. I will encourage myself and more people to write more poetry. So if anyone has any questions or comments, you're certainly welcome to share them with me, come off mute, and I'll also share my contact information in the chat.
This exercise was really interesting for me because I feel like it's really rare that we give ourselves permission to be bold about our intentions. And by putting that quote in front of us, it gave us permission to think about what the fullest expression of our life could be. And I just thought that was really beautiful to empower us with that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Susanna, for coming along on that exercise. I just find Octavia Butler's affirmations, like you said, very, very bold. And that permission to take up space, right? That permission to take up space is just so incredible. Like we're granting ourselves that permission. No one else needs to grant us that permission. We give ourselves that permission to take up space. And I think especially for, women, people of color, it's just an incredible, like for me, an incredible realization. Like I don't need to seek validation or permission from anyone else to do that.
That's
pretty
huge.
powerful.
That's huge. I think that's like, yeah, that you can give yourself permission to take up space for yourself, not always to be here for everybody else, to always be, it's good to give and serve and all of that, but I'm not saying that, but you can do that too much, and not take any time for yourself and just take up space, just be present, just breathe, or take care of your own deep needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah. So that's the whole practice, is practicing being present, practicing taking care of yourself. In the act of taking up space, right? Our bodies taking up space, our physical beings, just allowing our physical bodies to be here, to be okay, to tend to them, all of that for me is interconnected. So I'm happy to stay for as long as there are other questions, but otherwise I hope to see many of you next week as well. And feel free to reach out with any questions or comments. I left my email there in the chat. And there's a link also, I posted in the chat for sort of a take-home practice. Some of you who were here last week already got a copy of it, but it contains some reflection questions for you for your home practice. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Wilda. Thank you.
Also, it felt really good doing this, like when you were we were doing the breathing exercises and things early on. You were asking like what certain things, what feelings are coming up. And for me, one of those was just relief, and doing this, being in a community of other people working towards something similar, that we're all here. And so it's one thing, like, to take time and breathe and do meditation on your own. But when you've got a group of other people around you, there's a different feeling you get from it that I was getting from it that was different. So I just want to say that. So I'm appreciative of that.
Thank you. I'm very appreciative for each of you for showing up. And yes, there is a lot of power in a collective practice, for sure.
I have a quick question. So for
Yes.
meditation, is there a recommended time to meditate? Like, I don't know, like majority of the people, do they meditate in the beginning of the day, the middle, or towards the end?
I love that question.
Mhm.
And I'm going to frustrate you right now with my response. It depends. It depends on you, actually. Some of the participants in my MBSR classes report being able to practice and really focus and kind of draw into themselves early in the morning. As soon as they wake up, they might allow themselves a body scan while they're still in bed before getting up, right? So that's a form of practice that you can try in the mornings. For those who might want like a midday yoga practice or mindful movement practice in the middle of the day to just kind of break up a monotony of sitting down, let's say, if you have a job that requires a lot of sitting, that's certainly something you can try. So there are a lot of different ways that you can practice. And for example, before coming on to this Zoom, I took my cat out for a walk in a stroller because I'm that kind of cat lady. But
That's a good
it
one.
was wonderful allowing my body to move in that way and just sort of looking around at my surroundings. So it really depends on you. I would say.
So that was like a walking meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My invitation is to play with it, to experiment and see what resonates for you. There is no right or wrong way, in my opinion, of practicing. And as Cara mentioned, sometimes it feels more like you are practicing when you're in a group or a sangha. So perhaps there are local groups, perhaps there are meetup groups, right? Perhaps there are people that you can practice together with and sort of act as your accountability buddies if you want to have that in your mindfulness practice. So there are so many different ways to approach it. And I really encourage you to play with it, to experiment.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for asking that. Anything else people wish to bring in?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Have a good evening.